The underdog. The long shot. The nobody from nowhere, never gonna happen 100 to 1 shot. We know something about that. We're with you every step of the way.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Thursday 30. I'm Matt Stradley here with the Jet John Williams. This Thursday 30 brought to you by Ingles Markets. Low prices, love the savings. What a podcast we have in store for you today. Coach Friedholm, Coach Shildt. Together at the same time, we're about to learn a whole lot about baseball. Or if you want, we can just talk about anything but baseball. I'm down for whatever you want to do.
Wherever this leads us, we'll go with it. Just thanks for having us today. Thanks, John. And of course, thanks, Mike, for jumping on. I know you guys are getting a little bit hectic, I'm sure, with some of the decisions MLB, and that might be something we want to talk about. But thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, man.
So, Coach, what is it like kind of navigating this time with the MLB? A lot of uncertainty coming into, or even if there will be a season. What's sort of your experience going through this process?
Well, clearly we're in uncharted territory for all of us. It's a common bond we all share. So, I'm optimistic we're going to have a season. This week will be telling as to when and if. But like I said, I'm optimistic and reasonably confident we're going to have a season this year. And really just making adjustments on the fly. You're not going to stay ahead of this. I don't think anybody is. We're just trying to stay as fluid and even with it as possible. And we started from a standpoint that I'm sure everybody would with our guys and have is, we just want to make sure initially our players and families got to where they needed to get to and were safe and taken care of and had their, basic needs met emotionally and physically. And then since then, we've been able to start to introduce more of the baseball life back into our world.
Now, Coach, do you think that it's going to be based off of a state-by-state basis, or do you think that they may try to take the approach that the NBA is doing, where they're going to have one central location, keep everybody kind of cohort distanced, and go about their games that way?
Yeah, I think there was a proposal initially to think about that, more of a bubble league type deal in Arizona, but it just really logistically didn't make sense for our league. And I will stop and say this, Major League Baseball, I've been on several conference calls and talked with our players, obviously. And the one thing I can tell you confidently is everybody's working together to figure out the safest manner. And I'm really comfortable at what baseball's doing. And from a health testing guidance standpoint, they've really done a nice job of figuring out what this is going to look like. As far as it goes, the local municipalities will be a factor for the most part with the country opening up, and most states and governors and the local governments have basically said to I think it's 19 different governors or maybe 18 that the commissioner talks to regularly that, what are the parameters, and most have been eased to a point where we can think about playing, and a couple that aren't, there's still a solution in there somewhere they're working out. But ideally, I think we'd like to play in our home cities and be able to travel and, basically probably just play in our case, the NL Central and the AL Central to limit travel and wear and tear on players.
Coach Friedholm, your season had just gotten underway when everything kind of hit. What's that experience like of preparing hard for a season and then it's just over?
It's unique, that's for sure. But it's not unique to us alone. And kind of what Mike was touching on, this is happening to everybody right now. So there is some comfort to our guys that it's not just them; it's happening too. So they've handled it with class. They've handled it with dignity. It is something, Mike. We are your alum. You are a proud alum of here, and we probably just got our spring GPA back, and our guys got a 3.51 this semester in the classroom. So to be able to do what they did in the classroom during these tough times from home and under different circumstances, we're real proud of them. But we're excited to hopefully get them back here in August. And the university just came out that we will be in person August 10th, starting August 10th. So we're excited to get these guys back on campus and hopefully into a little bit more, I don't know if we can ever say normal again, but the new normal and get these guys getting ready for 2021. So we're excited about it.
I don't know if you guys knew this. Coach Friedholm, maybe one of my favorite coaches on campus. I was doing a soccer doubleheader, and I was carrying 2 cups of coffee, and he goes, "You double fisting it today?" And I said, "Oh, this will get me through the first game." In between the games, who shows up? Coach Friedholm with a large mug of coffee. He goes, "I got a Keurig in my office. This will get you through." My guy.
That's great.
Well, I know, and I don't want to speak for Mike, but baseball games tend to last a long time. There's no clock, so we tend to be at the baseball field for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So it's good to have a coffee maker on handy for some of those longer days, especially when they're rain or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
So always need coffee available.
Coach Shildt, what's one of your memories of being at UNC Asheville? What's one of those things that are etched inside your head? What stands out about the university to you, thinking back?
Well, a lot of things. First of all, the relationship I have and been able to form with a lot of really good friends that I've been able to have over the last, I won't say how many years, but several. And the fact that we were able to establish, I was in the second year of the program, but we didn't have a home field at the time. So we played all our games on the road, and we spent a fair amount of time, working on the field that's now there. That's Coach Friedholm and a lot of people have done a really nice job of accelerating and improving and getting it up to the standards that we'd all like to see to compete at the local and national level. And we helped build the dugouts and do some things there. So there's special memories there. And of course, the school was a great school, and just enjoyed not only the school itself and the quality of education I received, but also just the beautiful city of Asheville.
Coach, I have a question for you. And this is for both coaches, is one of the things that I realized when during my time at UNC Asheville was how fantastic the locker room was for the baseball team. And you guys used to be right next door to us, and when we were in the Justice Center. And so one of the things that I missed and remembered a lot was the locker room camaraderie that both of us had, because back then we had to share a bathroom in the Justice. And I wanted to know, like, is that something that you guys miss now that you guys are away from your guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we enjoyed it. We had some good basketball teams back then too. So it was always good to hang out with those guys and, support them and have some good natured fun and just to be able to enjoy ourselves in that kind of atmosphere. So those are fond memories for sure.
I would
next door to us back then?
What's that?
Were you guys next door to us back then too, when you were playing?
We got moved into there, I guess probably my junior year. And it was not nearly as nice as it turned out to be, but yeah, we got moved into that area and actually had a home that we didn't have before. But yeah, it was cool. It was really cool.
I think that's a great question, Coach Friedholm. What about that inter-team camaraderie? We got to know Wade because he was at so many of the basketball games. So I'm sure that there's a lot of that inter-team a lot of that inter-team camaraderie that's been missed.
Yeah, it's even though that the basketball team relocated up to the new Sherrill Center or up there, but they still swing by. It's it's pretty generally located. That is the one thing, and I don't want to speak for Mike, but that is the one thing in baseball that we miss a lot, is that time in the locker room. You build a lot of friendships on the field, but they are secured and they are tightened in the locker room with just hanging around, watching TV, playing ping pong, whatever it may be. Some of the basketball players now come into the baseball locker room to play some ping pong. So we are more than welcome to let in, although times are different now, but some of our guys will take on anybody in a good game of ping pong. So, and hopefully we'll beat most guys, because baseball players better have the best hand-eye coordination in any sport, I would hope. So our guys are pretty good and pretty competitive at doing it.
That's awesome, man. Obviously, they got to make their way down there anyway, because you got to go to the training room. Everybody's got to go to the training room and get ice. And so that, for me personally, like, we used to go into the baseball locker room, and really just enjoy, because your locker room is bigger, obviously. And you just had a lot of space. There were all types of games. There was all types of different activities. Somebody either was getting their mustache trimmed. I mean, there was all types of stuff, mullets, mutton chop, all types of madness that went on there. And honestly, like the class that I graduated with and the classes before me that I got the experience to get to know, they're still as tight as a knot as we speak. You know, I follow them on Facebook. They're on golf trips. They're doing things. They're having babies now, and so it's always awesome to see how tight knit the baseball team is from a traditional standpoint.
I would like to reiterate on that as well, or follow up. I feel very fortunate to have come into a program where our alumni is so strong here. It was an easy transition for me to have that first golf tournament or that first baseball night, and everybody was just continuing what we kept building on. So, you know, obviously it's, you know, Mike has been at baseball night before and he's spoke at it, but you know, we have a golf tournament in September, which unfortunately Mike can never make because the Cardinals are so damn good every year and they beat up everybody. We won't talk about that, but you know, unfortunately he's not able to get back for that golf tournament, but he has been back for baseball night, and it's all generations. It's the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. Everybody comes back and everybody supports, and we are very fortunate here.
Yeah, that coach has also done a really good job, probably as good a job as any coach we've had in the program's history. And that's not to minimize anybody else, but he's done a really good job of making the alumni feel welcome and creating events that create energy and opportunities for the program. And just, he should be really commended for the job he does with reaching out and making the alumni feel involved.
I'm gonna spill another story about Coach Friedholm. I took my kids to watch the Asheville Bulldogs take on Tennessee in that opening match of the season. We went up to Highlands Brewery to watch that. And Coach Friedholm came over and talked to us for a couple of minutes. And after he left, my kids were like, "That guy's awesome," and they're just so starstruck by Coach Friedholm and how approachable and how sweet he was to the kids, and immediately gained 2 fans to the program just like that. And I have a feeling that's for alumni, that goes to people in the Asheville community. I think that's why Asheville Bulldogs baseball is so easy to cheer for, as it starts at the top.
I appreciate that. It's not hard to be nice. That's all I know. It's not hard to say hello. It's not hard to shake a hand. It's not hard. So it just takes a little bit of time. So we can all do it.
Trying to stick to baseball, as I'll try to do. I'd like to say, and this may be a statement that's outside of the box, that's fine. Baseball players are far and away weird, just a different breed. What I'm saying is that if you took a baseball player and put him on a basketball team, you would clearly see that player. And I have a theory that that's what happened to Dennis Rodman. He was a baseball player that got stuck on a basketball team, and that's why he stood out so much. What is the toughest player you've ever had to coach? Just from a personality standpoint, maybe they were new, maybe they had a ton of superstitions, or how did you kind of get around that?
Yeah, baseball players are unique. I will say this, you know, all the guys, most athletes are, you know, they're disciplined, clearly, they're dedicated to their sport. You know, baseball players have their own personalities, which is fun. Most of it is fun and good natured. You know, you're going to always meet, just in general population, 1 or 2 that, you know, they're probably a little more hard headed. But, you know, outside of that rare occasion, most of these guys are just good dudes, man, just good hearted, good, you know, kind of like Coach Friedholm. They're nice to people, good to kids. If they're respected, they're respectful of themselves. And sometimes even when they're not, they're still respectful. But there's not any one particular player or anything like that. You know, I've always looked at the more of the hard-headed player, or the player that's still trying to figure out where they fit, as really my biggest opportunity as a coach. You know, I'll say this, especially in the minor leagues, where, you know, you're just trying to develop young men, players into major league players. And some of the biggest things that prevent the players to get there is not their physical abilities, just, you know, some level dysfunction that's holding them back. And that's true in any field, really. So, we get paid, and the best opportunity to see how really good you are, what you do, is the player that's more of a challenge, whether it's physically or emotionally or some combination.
Could I add on to that? And I don't know if, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. I think people take baseball superstitions as weird, but baseball is one of those sports where we have a routine because we fail so much that we need something to fall back on. And one of my favorite players of all times growing up in Boston, but one of my favorite players watching was Nomar Garciaparra. And the things that he did with his batting gloves and his cleats and everything to get ready for an at-bat or in between pitches, I think that was just to make him comfortable or as relaxed as possible before facing a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, which is a difficult thing to do. I think our sport, with failure being so prevalent, we always need something almost as like our blanket or to hide under or to shelter us to get us back to that comfort feeling. I don't know if I'm describing it well, Mike. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I think you're all over it. I really do. That's a good point. Oliver Marmol, our bench coach, talks about having an anchor that guys can go to, and we also use it with our faith. But really, just having that place of reference point, and you can become really dedicated to that, to the point of like you feel like you have to do it in order to be successful, and that can be a little bit of a millstone perhaps, but nonetheless, there's guys that just, again, so routine based, so much repetition involved with our game and it's a feel game. So if you don't feel like you're getting your X number of swings in, then you don't feel like you're able to get out there and perform and be free. So yeah, and then some guys just absolutely just a little different, they just like to do things different, or just enjoy things in a different manner that gets them going. And hey, whatever it takes to get you to play well, I'm all in. Do what you got to do, brother.
Now, speaking of different and unique, one of the things that I noticed when I played at UNC Asheville and interactions with the baseball teams was their unique ability to trash talk. Everybody's got their own method to the madness of their trash talk. Baseball, I was very intrigued by. And like I said, like, this is years ago, like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble or anything like that, but in some of the extracurricular activities, whether it was cornhole or anything of that nature, I couldn't tell, like, when in baseball would compete against basketball would compete against soccer, volleyball, whatever, but we'd play something and I couldn't tell if I was being encouraged or mocked, but I went home. I went home feeling like, did Alan Durrett just did say something, and I don't know what he said, but I'm going to talk to him about that tomorrow in the locker room. And so it was always fun to hear them actually watch them play baseball. They do that same type of game and mind games and subtleties. And so you guys care to chime in on that as far as the uniqueness of baseball trash talk?
Mike, you want to take this one?
Sure, absolutely. And that's kind of interesting from a basketball guy, because I've been on some basketball courts, and there's some trash talking that goes on there too, to get in people's heads. And it's a little bit of gamesmanship. It's good natured, but it kind of goes back to our camaraderie piece that we spoke about earlier on. That just some of it can get a little personal, and I've seen some guys get after each other pretty good that maybe took exception. Some of the older guys, and not to be older, but some of the guys that are a little more maybe mentally strong will pick at guys that, and make sure, A, they're having fun with them. That's part of the clubhouse culture, have a little fun. But also, B, to see, like, hey, in our sport, we get heckled occasionally by fans and opposing teams. And, if you expose that, if you show, weakness, not that you have to be, subhuman, but, you show that weakness, people want to, so your teammates will rag on you just to toughen you up a little bit sometimes. And, but also just good natured, and, hopefully everybody can appreciate it for what it is. And baseball players also have their own somewhat language, not that, it's a little different. My wife Michelle, I'll say things like, what does that mean? And it's just a baseball term, and it's not derogatory like that. It's just a little bit of a slang we use for something that you take for granted in a clubhouse culture, but is not definitely mainstream, and it's not profane. It's just a different way of saying something.
I'll add that I think we're a bit more sarcastic and a bit more subtle than most other sports when they're starting to trash talk.
Yeah.
I've been on a basketball court as well, and they just go right at you. I mean, there's no hiding it. Where in baseball, they kind of give you that backhand jab, or the back of the, and Don, you nailed it. You're not quite sure if they're complimenting you, or did that just get personal and I don't know.
That's so true.
But yeah,
it's so nonchalant. As a matter of fact, and I'm thinking, did you just compliment me and then insult me and then sandwich it with another compliment? I don't know how to take that.
Well, I think it's because in basketball, if you're upset, you can just honestly you play harder. You dunk in their face, you run them over. You can't do that in baseball, So it's not like we can just tackle a guy harder or do something like that. So I think a lot of our insults are subtle jabs. And I think Mike nailed it. Over a period of time, it's just the way we grew up in this game. Talking now, I mean, we've been in a clubhouse. Mike's been in a clubhouse for 40 years. He's been around it. I mean, I've learned a lot from listening to his backstory of when he was growing up in the Charlotte Knights clubhouse, so he's been around baseball since he was 10 years old. There are times I've talked to Mike, I don't know what he just said to me. I just nod my head and just say thanks. And hopefully he wasn't insulting me, but I wasn't sure. So we just move on. So there we go.
So I've got three coaches with me. John coached a championship-winning high school girls basketball team. I've got Coach Shildt, the coach of the St. Louis Cardinals. I've got Coach Friedholm, the coach of the Bulldogs. In that position, the managerial, the coach position, when it's game day, you're moving pieces, but tell me about the interactions with the officials. Is it more for show, or do you actually expect to get something out of it? I want to start with John on this one because he's got I've seen him on the sidelines, and I got to find that out. I've been wondering that for a while.
Well, I came up under the Eddie Biedenbaugh era where he was uberly petty to referees to a point where it may have been a detriment to the team. And so I rear back a lot. I don't do the opposite, but I know how to push buttons to a point where I can get something out of it. It's just like your dad or your mom. You learn from them and you become the better version. Not saying I'm better than Eddie B or anything like that, but you learn from how he interacted with those referees and say, okay, that actually worked. I'm going to take that and I'm going to make it my own. And so for me, dealing with referees, I never was chasing them for 94 feet or anything like that. But what I will do is, I'll whisper something and I might yell it, and then they tell me how they feel, and I say, well, carry on. And so I know how to let die a little bit better, but that's one of my things as a coach is letting it die. It's okay. Next play, moving forward. I'm not going to let it take on a life of its own. So that, for me, that's how I handle reps.
Mike, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I think that's well said. It's similar. For me, I've been in the game a while now, and my interaction with umpires and my mentality towards them has changed over the years. And you used to, I used to be a challenge to them, constantly just on them all the time. And then I realized A, it wasn't working. Kind of to John's point a little bit, and B, realized that as you get older, at least for me, you sort of have a little more empathy for others. And you realize, these guys are trying hard. They're getting after it. Their heart's in it. They're not trying to miss a call or do anything. And so I've just really been a little more tolerant of that. Of course, replay systems come into our game that has taken away some of that interaction with guys. And you get to know them. I've coached third base for years in the minor leagues, and then I've coached in the big leagues. So you get to be with the third base umpire as they rotate through, and you're talking and just catching up and realize these are just pretty good dudes that just trying to do a job. So once you get to that point and you appreciate that. Now there are times where you feel like you got to stand up for your player, or you feel like your club, and you don't feel like you need to get on an umpire to give your team a boost. That's really not really the way I think about it, for us at least. But there are times where a player is rightfully slighted that that I've got to have his back and make sure he stays in the game so he can compete. They can do without me managing, but we need our players on the field. So I've taken about a 180-degree turn. Just talk to them, and similar to what John said, I'll go out and in between pitch and change or say, hey, where's this pitch, or what do we try to diffuse something before it becomes anything bigger than it really needs to be.
I would just echo. I mean, it's kind of hard to follow Mike when it comes to talking to umpires. But for us, for me at our level, the biggest thing is for our players to know that I have their back, and I'm going to defend them because we don't have the replay system. So if our guy thinks he was safe at first, and our first base coach thought he was safe at first, I want to make sure we defend our players and that they know that I have their back. And for a 17 to 21-year-old guy, that means a lot to them because it's probably not what a lot of their high school coaches were able to do. And all of a sudden now we're able to defend them and stick up for them. And occasionally I have been thrown out of game defending our guys. It was never because of an official's call. It was, but it was more defending our player than it was the actual call itself, if that makes sense.
It's a lot of sense. I think I get it. Wanted to ask real quick about everyone's family situation is vastly different through this quarantine. Shildt just got married. Congratulations! Right, got it in right under the gun.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, right under the gun. We got married March 6th, and a week later, the world in the States changed pretty dramatically, and so we've been on a beautiful honeymoon now that I think we're approaching Guinness records.
Oh my God! Yes. And just to let you know, Coach Friedholm is now a rock star fifth and middle school aged math teacher. He told me earlier that 2 + 2 is 4 - 1 is 3, and I checked it out. That's correct.
Wow, strong.
How's the teaching going? What's that like? Because you've got two very energetic young boys who just fantastic young men, but now you are helping guide them in their learning process. What's that been like for you?
It's been a blessing, to be quite honest. I've never been home in February, March, April, May, June, or July. It's always coaching or recruiting, and I've never been around this much. I mean, sure, yes, I miss our team and I miss our baseball players, but to be able to be a part of Cooper and Camden, those are my two little guys, 5th grade and 2nd grade, to be a part of it and be around it, it's been a blessing. And teachers are grossly underpaid in this country, and I think we can all appreciate that now. So, and I have one as my Angie, who is my wife, as a teacher. So, we are fortunate we have a pretty good routine going at home. But I look at it as a blessing that I'm around the boys more now. And yes, I'm going to get on the road recruiting this summer, hopefully. But these last 2 or 3 months, I've never been able to do with them before. So I've looked at it as a blessing from the personal side.
Now, John runs individual training for players, and I know Mike, Coach Shildt, that's how you spent some of your time as well, that one-on-one interaction with players. Is there anything about that, Coach Shildt, that you miss, sort of the individual training versus being the manager of the entire team?
Yeah, I do miss that. I still get an opportunity to get out and teach more of the team fundamental type things, but I don't get the daily interaction when the guys with their hitting or fielding. We have excellent coaches that take care of that and do it better than I was able to do it. So, but yeah, I just missed the interaction of working with somebody towards a goal that helps them realize the best of their God-given ability and enjoy the relationships that take place during that as well.
John, what is it about the one-on-one interaction that you like so much versus I know you're a great coach and you enjoy coaching, but I see you in those one-on-ones that you post to Instagram, and there's just an energy level that's there.
Yeah, honestly, it's the trust factor. And the cool thing is a lot of the one-on-ones that I have, some of the players I coach. So that helps out too, as far as building the relationship and that trust factor for that player to buy in, to give 100% when they're out there on the court, and knowing that I'm going to do the same for them. That's sweat equity. But then the deeper facet of that is and I like to call it the bro situation is, bro, like, which means we're about to get into something deep that you wouldn't share, but you'd share it with somebody that you trust. And so when you hit that factor, that becomes a point of emphasis that we're about to become family. And that's how I look at it when you have those intimate relationships and go through something with someone, and that relationship then leads to something of, okay, you're grown now, you've got a family now, and watching them and growing with them as they develop into grown-ups or upstanding citizens and human beings.
Coach Friedholm, what's a better baseball movie, Major League or Field of Dreams?
Field of Dreams.
Coach Shildt, Major League, Field of Dream?
I go Field of Dreams.
So neither one of you like to laugh. That's insane.
Listen, there's a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Mike.
it's one or two choices. Those are tough two choices, man. You asked the best. You didn't ask if we didn't like both. But yeah, the Major League's hilarious and somewhat mostly accurate as far as baseball movies go. But Field of Dreams, man. I mean, if you have one thing about baseball, at least for me, is there's a romance to it that pulls at your heartstrings in Field of Dreams.
Mike, is there any better movie line than "Dad, you want to have a catch" at the end?
Oh
of Field of
gosh,
Dreams?
yeah, right.
I mean,
that's just
it's stupid.
I can name three in Major League, but I can't say them on the podcast. There are three in Major League. One involves a holy figure hitting a curveball. I'll just say that.
Right.
Fair.
That's fair.
That is fair.
So this question's for all the coaches. What have you guys been watching? Have you guys been able to watch any series, TV shows, movies that have really captured your eye?
I'll take
watching The Last Dance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, watching The Last Dance. That's been good. We're through 5, and then watched a show early on called Yellowstone, which was pretty darn good.
Coach, let me cut you off right there. That is a fantastic series. I'm on season 1. Don't say anything else about that. But fantastic. Kevin Costner is a champion.
Yeah, he's a stud. It's well done. We enjoyed it.
It's a great show.
Coach Friedholm, what are you watching?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you. What you watching?
We just finished The Last Dance, like Mike said. We watched that with the boys, so we watched it every Monday and Tuesday after we filmed it on Sunday night. And then we are watching Ozark currently. We just started season 3 of Ozark. But we did, as a family, we watched all the Marvel movies in order as a family. So
we did that too.
We went from Iron Man all the way up, so that was pretty good.
The only thing we skipped was Spider-Man Homecoming, and we just went back and watched that last Friday night.
Yeah. So the funny thing is about, and you guys with kids know this, when you watch a show like Ozark, it's hard to binge watch because you can't start watching till 10 o'clock at night to make sure they're in bed. Because you don't want them walking out on some of those scenes. So we usually watch one a night, and that's our binge.
Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, it's almost like that's my life, Coach.
Yes.
Coach
Mike,
Shildt,
can I ask you a question? Can I ask Mike one question?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've always wanted to ask this. Mike, you can take one player from a major league roster and put him on the Cardinals. Who do you want?
Oh gosh, I might get in trouble if I answer that one.
So I didn't mean to get you in trouble.
No, not in trouble, but because here's the thing, like I love our team.
Yes,
I love our team. So clearly, if I pick a guy, and there's so many good players, that's the one blessing you have that I appreciate is, and clearly you got to stay in the competition, but so not just step back and realize just how amazing these guys are at our game that we love, and seeing at the highest level and seeing guys do special things that you go, whoa, with what looks like relative ease, and we know it's not. But man, there's just so many talented people. it would be hard to say. But there's some really gifted dudes in our league that would be a welcome addition.
Yeah. I agree. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
No worries at all. That's cool. That's why we're here, right? That's fun.
What Coach Shildt said about the amazing seeming like easy. There have been a lot of plays in covering your team, Coach Friedholm, that are amazing to me, and then they just trot off. They may get a high five for it, maybe. It's crazy to me, the athleticism that the Bulldogs have displayed in the past. What's one of the most amazing plays that you've ever seen in person? And then I'll ask the same to Coach Shildt.
In person?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I will go back probably 3 years. Carmine Pagano, our shortstop at UNC Asheville, made a play. For those that don't know, Greenwood Field has a 6-foot high chain link fence down the lines, and he foul ball. He left shortstop behind third base, climbed halfway up, put his spike in halfway up on one of the chain link, reached over, caught it, and came back, and was the third out. And kind of what you said, everyone was just kind of like, I don't think we knew how to react. We all just gave him a high five, but we went back and watched it on film and didn't realize exactly what he had done to make that play. So it was one of the best I've seen. And there's so many though. And like you said, we've been fortunate lately with some of our players. So I'm curious to see what Mike has to answer with this one, because he's got 160 games a year to watch this. So.
Yeah, you know what? It's there's not one that stands out, but I can tell you the guy that almost nightly, and we have multiple of them because we have a really good defensive club. So we had a Gold Glover in Colton Wong last year, and we have a 9-time Gold Glover behind the plate in Yadier Molina. Paul Goldschmidt at first base, is 1-3. So, and our shortstop and center fielder, Paul DeYoung and Harrison Bader, both finished in top 3 last year. And watching what they do, but Yachty every night's going to do something that you go, whoa. And he just, it's amazing, whether it's picking a ball in the dirt at 94 and throwing a guy out, or back picking a guy, or just some of the blocks he does with a runner at third base, some of the nasty stuff these guys are throwing. But man, it's just really, asked me the question and 15 plays came to my mind, and all those guys I mentioned were involved in all of them.
They make you really good. They make you a really good coach, don't they, Mike?
Really super smart. Let's don't kid ourselves here. Let's don't pretend that we're, at least for me, that I'm carrying the mail here. I'm just guiding it and making sure I can get out of the way and let them play.
Well, I don't want you to undersell your value there. And by the way, I haven't said this in person because I haven't seen you in person. Congratulations on the Manager of the Year last year. Well done.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes. Appreciate that.
That's awesome.
It is. It's a very humbling award, but it's also a team award. We got a staff. I looked earlier. Our staff's unbelievably strong. These guys are super committed, very good at what they do, very prepared, and then we got a good team. So, it's a team award that has an individual's name on it. But I appreciate you saying that.
And Coach Shildt picks one up just about every stop he makes. One of those Coach of the Year awards, whether it's for the conference he's coaching in, the league he's coaching in. Just reviewing your resume, it comes along with every stop just about a Coach of the Year award. I don't think that that's a fluke. After a while, maybe it's you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You look up. You do what you do, right? But we're in a room full of coaches, and if you don't have guys that are dedicating it, throwing it out there, and have talent, you can coach your tail off. And I've seen some, and really some of the best coaching jobs I've done. As far as like feeling like, man, I really helped to get the most out of this team. Were teams that were not championship teams, and then I've seen guys that have coached and have really well coached teams that just didn't have the firepower to reward what was taking place in that regard. But ultimately we just do our jobs. Players win championships, and we just do our part to help them and grow them and love them.
Coach Shildt, do you hate the Cubs as much as you should, do you think?
Oh,
You know what? I love the rivalry. I love going in there and playing. You know, I really don't view it as us playing against them as us playing against ourselves. You know, we don't take. I mean, the Cubs are a big rivalry. I mean, that's obvious, and we play 162 games, and we don't want to minimize anybody we play. So ultimately, we play at our standard. We got the best chance of shaking hands and feeling good at the end of the day. So we play clean, play right, play our style of game. Then our opponent we respect, but we ultimately playing against our own standards.
So yes, you could hate the Cubs more.
You said it.
Coach Friedholm, who are your Cubs?
Oh God, who are my Cubs? The Yankees, because I'm a Red Sox fan. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, there you go.
Our Cubs,
What a great answer. Well done. All right, got me.
Our Cubs within our conference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a little bit different because we only play each other 3 times a year. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't want. No, I'm not answering.
Okay,
that
you could
one.
series
Sorry,
sweep anyone. You could series sweep anyone.
Whoever we're playing that weekend. How about that?
Okay, very good. I can't beat it. That's well done. I can't. You win. I give up.
but we do know that there is a Cubs out there.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
There's a
Oh
Cubs.
yeah, there's right. That's right.
Yes. and the players know exactly which one it is too.
I know they know.
There's always one that, it's a little bit nicer when you win. And, I don't want to speak for Mike, but at least at the college level, I think there is that one that is always a little bit nicer that you beat.
Yeah, that's fair.
Coach Shildt, have you ever heard a piece of trash talk that made you laugh?
Oh yeah. Nothing comes to the top of my head, but absolutely. There's some things that said you're like, man, that was good. And like Coach Friedholm mentioned earlier, baseball guys are pretty sarcastic and pretty witty and pretty quick off the cuff, and they say some pretty funny things that you just go, oh my gosh. And when you're in the dugout, you try not to laugh because you're usually captured, but yeah, it's pretty funny stuff.
Coach Friedholm, has anyone said something to you meant as an insult that made you laugh?
All the time, and most of them come from my brothers or our own team. So it's not necessarily coming from an opponent. It's being the youngest of 5. There's been a lot of funny things said to me.
You've heard it. As the youngest of 5, I'm guessing you've heard them.
I've heard them all, and they were supposed to be insults, but they ended up being pretty damn funny. And some of them came from my mother. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I've noticed that with coaches in baseball is there's not a lot of smiling going on. So for something to have been said that cracks you up, it had to be really funny because there's usually a stoic look, and it's kind of like the unsaid look that you got to have. And so if something does crack you up, it's got to be hilarious. It has to be.
Yeah, that's a good point, John. That's a good point.
At least for me, I usually try to duck into the bathroom too to laugh before the guys see me doing it out in public. So
you can't give them that feeling of satisfaction. You can't do it.
Correct.
That's right.
Mike, why do we have that stoic look? And I do the exact same thing. Like, I try not to react to anything. I don't like to write notes when the guys are looking at me. And for me, it's because I don't want them to think negative thoughts of what I'm writing down. Oh, he's mad at me. He did this. For you, I know, especially all major league managers, there's no reaction. There's zero. Is it because we play so many games and it's such a fragile sport?
Yeah, I think it's for me at least. It's just you want to just stay even keel with what's going on. I mean, you want to. And I don't think we appreciate sometimes the successes we have. We want to, probably enjoy it a little bit more when in the moment, do a better job after the game. But in that moment, really, something happens that you didn't, the team didn't want to happen or didn't go our way. If there's overreaction to that, then it can kind of have residual effect to the next couple of plays, and things happen fast, So really, it's really just about staying locked in and going, okay, that happened. What's next? And because if you get too sideways, the game will get sideways really quickly in some of your decision making. So it's really just about staying focused as much as anything else.
Yeah, I've always wondered. I see a ton of games where I'm just like, what is going on in that beautiful mind? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's scary, man. You don't want in there. You don't want in there, John. It's scary.
You'd be echoing in my mind, just so you know. It wouldn't.
There you go.
I think back to poor Leo Mazzoni trying to get his Fitbit step count up, just rocking back and forth. And I'm thinking, I want no part of that life. That seems so difficult. And I can't listen to this Zoom conference without reacting. And so I imagine me as a baseball manager would be maybe the pit of awful. Guys, we're going to wrap up the Thursday 30 brought to you by Ingalls Markets. Low prices, love the savings. Coach Shildt, rare chance to talk to both the Bulldogs and the Cardinals fans out there. Anything you want to pass on to them right now?
Yeah, just listen, we're obviously in a common bond with what's going on in this Corona deal, and stay prayerful, stay faithful to, and it's okay to have days that are tough, right? I mean, you have a tough day. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody. It just makes you human, and the one thing that there's a couple of tough days for me. You look up and you go, man, this country, where's it going? Where's our world going? And kind of gets you a little sideways emotionally, and then professionally, just missing our players and missing opening days in St. Louis at Busch Stadium is pretty magical. And but then I stop and take an attitude of gratefulness of what I do have and what we do have, and appreciate the people around me, and try to look to help other people. But if you're struggling with something, don't be afraid to ask for help or to get it off your chest, and appreciate what you do have, and look to help somebody that maybe is not as fortunate as you are.
Coach Friedholm, I know you're missing your guys, and I know you're missing the fans. What would you like to say to them?
Just kind of reiterate and echo exactly what Mike just said. And to emphasize that they're not alone in this, that everyone is going through this right now, and that we will be back. And it may be a little bit different when we are back, but we will be back. And, we are here for them, for the fans, for our student athletes. And we are here to support each other, not just them support the Bulldogs, but for the Bulldogs to support the community as well and help out in any way that we can in the city of Asheville and the surrounding area. So, even if a little thing like this, it brings a smile to someone's face like it did mine today. So this was great. So thank you for putting this on, and thanks Mike and John and Matt for doing this. I really appreciate it.
John, do you have any outlandish predictions for the Bulldogs baseball team next year?
With Wade, man, I could see definitely best facial hairdos. I could see that because Wade had something different every single time I saw him. But for our team, they've definitely had one of the biggest personalities on campus, and that just shows how their camaraderie is, how they are as a team. I can see them going as far as they'd like to take it, as far as the Big South Conference goes. Every year they compete, so I want to go for the big dance. I want to go dancing. So that's my hope for our baseball team next year.
I think that is a prediction that I'm willing to get behind. Coach Friedholm, Coach Shildt, thank you for joining us. For John Williams, I'm Matt Stradley saying see you next time on the Thursday 30.